Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most brutal, raw, and unforgettable machines ever built in America, the Dodge Viper GTS. This car isn't just another sports car. It's a symbol of what happens when engineers decide to strip away comfort, forget about electronic babysitters, and instead create a machine designed to terrify and thrill its driver in equal measure. If you grew up in the 1990s or early 2000s, chances are you had a poster of this car on your wall, or you saw it dominating in video games and movies. And today, we're going to take a deep look at why the Viper GTS became such a legend. The Dodge Viper story starts in the early 1990s with the original RTA-10 Roadster. Chrysler wanted to build something that echoed the spirit of the Shelby Cobra, a car that was raw, stripped down, and absolutely ferocious. The RTA-10 did just that, but it was more of a wild, open-top monster than a fully refined supercar. By the mid-90s, Dodge decided it was time to create something more sophisticated, more polished, yet no less intimidating. In 1996, they unveiled the Dodge Viper GTS, a coupe version that instantly became iconic. What made the GTS so special was its design. With its long hood, low stance, and curvaceous bodywork, it was both menacing and beautiful. The roofline, with its distinctive double-bubble design, paid tribute to classic racing cars of the 1960s like the Shelby Daytona Coupe. And then there was the paint job, the most famous being Viper Blue with twin white racing stripes running across the entire car. That color combination became so legendary that even today, when people imagine the Viper, they often picture it in blue with white stripes. It was a look that screamed speed, power, and American muscle at its finest. Of course, the heart of the GTS was what lay under that endless hood. Dodge equipped the car with an 8.0-liter V10 engine, producing 450 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. In the mid-90s, those numbers were insane. The GTS could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just about 4 seconds, and it could go all the way up to nearly 185 miles per hour. But the raw numbers only tell part of the story. The way the Viper delivered its power was unlike anything else. There were no traction control systems, no stability control, no anti-lock safety nets to save you if you made a mistake. It was just you, the car, and that monstrous engine. Driving the Viper required real skill, because if you weren't careful, it could snap out of control in an instant. That danger, that unpredictability, was part of what made it so appealing. But the Viper GTS wasn't just a road car. Dodge had bigger ambitions. They developed a race version called the Viper GTS-R, and they took it to the world stage to compete against the likes of Porsche, Ferrari, and Mercedes. To everyone's surprise, the American underdog didn't just hold its own, it dominated. The GTS-R scored victories in the FIA GT Championship and even at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where it achieved multiple class wins. For an American car to conquer endurance, racing in Europe was nothing short of extraordinary, and it cemented the Viper's reputation as not just a brute, but a genuine world-class competitor. Culturally, the Viper GTS exploded into the spotlight. It showed up in countless movies, TV shows, and perhaps most importantly, in video games. If you played Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, or Forza back in the day, the Viper was always one of the cars you dreamed of unlocking. Its presence in pop culture made it the dream car for a whole generation of kids, many of whom still see it as the ultimate American supercar. Unlike Ferraris or Lamborghinis, which had a certain elegance, the Viper was aggressive, loud, and dangerous. It was the bad boy of the automotive world, and people loved it for that. Behind the wheel, the GTS was not for the faint of heart. Drivers often described the experience as raw and unfiltered. The steering was heavy, the clutch was stiff, the ride was unforgiving, and yet every time you shifted gears and felt that V10 roar, you couldn't help but smile. It was a car that constantly reminded you that you were alive. There was no way to relax in a Viper because the car demanded all of your attention every single second. That's exactly what made it so rewarding. Mastering the Viper felt like taming a wild animal. The Viper GTS also became a collector's favorite over the years. People recognized early on that this wasn't just another fast car. It was a piece of American automotive history. With its limited production numbers, its motorsport pedigree, and its unmistakable design, the GTS has only grown in value and respect. Even today, collectors will pay huge sums to get their hands on a pristine blue and white Viper GTS, and many consider it one of the greatest American cars ever built. Sadly, as time went on, stricter regulations and changing market demands made it harder for the Viper to survive. Dodge eventually discontinued the model in 2017, marking the end of an era. But for many enthusiasts, the GTS from the 1990s remains the pinnacle of the entire Viper line. It struck the perfect balance between the raw insanity of the early roadsters and the slightly more refined later models. It was brutal, but beautiful, dangerous, but unforgettable. So when we talk about legendary cars, the Dodge Viper GTS will always be near the top of the list. It wasn't the easiest to drive, and it wasn't the safest car on the road, but that wasn't the point. The point was to deliver an experience so intense, so visceral, that it left a permanent mark on anyone who got behind the wheel. It was America's way of saying, we can build a supercar too, but we'll do it our way. And in that mission, Dodge succeeded brilliantly. Thanks for sticking with me through this deep dive into the story of the Dodge Viper GTS. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of one of America's greatest supercars, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me what car you'd love to see covered next. Until then, drive safe and never stop chasing your passion for cars.